Hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cooking with Aimee and Bristol. Look at, he made an appearance today. The old guy is just that, getting old and getting bored with our videos, but you know, a little cookie goes a long way. So I have a really great recipe. I know I have made scones on here for you before. This is a fan favorite. It is a favorite for many people. It makes a beautiful gift if somebody's not feeling well. I know at our house we've had COVID, we've had friends and neighbors that have had, and this is one of those recipes that I can make very quickly. Depending on what I have in the fridge, I can flip and add things to it. And that's what I want to show you today. So I am making this a very basic scone recipe. This one today that I'm making, obviously you can see here, I'm making a lemon raspberry scone. I'm going to give a few tips and tricks, things that I do that actually make this recipe quite easy. This is also a recipe that you can make savory. This is a similar recipe that I do cheese and jalapeno in, and you can add some hidden things into that one. We have a kale and fiber, so it's a bit green. Obviously, you gotta add jalapenos to it. You just take those seeds out. It's not too hot. The greens kind of, people don't even notice. Today, we're actually gonna add pea protein to the scones. I normally do. Plus, I cut the sugar in half in this. Now, when I do post the recipe over on VI Peeps, I will keep the regular recipe. I will not half anything. You can do with it as you want, but again, I cut my sugar in half because I do the drizzle on top, and because I do the drizzle and I love the extra sugar on top with the drizzle, I just cut the sugar out. I find the raspberries, blueberries, depending on the fruit that you might put into it, gives it that extra sweetness that I don't think that you do need. Everybody can do what they want, but again, I'm just showing some things. I'm also going to be leaving this full on regular, so there will be eggs, there will be heavy cream. Please, if you are lactose intolerant, there is a beautiful heavy cream that you can use that is lactose free. It's amazing to use. It's conversion-wise the exact same. If you are vegan, for example, my suggestion would be to use coconut milk. Again, it doesn't leave that big of a flavor difference, even if you're gonna do a raspberry lemon kind of thing. And as far as vegans go, for eggs, don't forget the egg substitute is 1 tablespoon of flax to 3 tablespoons of water, and you let that sit into like one of the prep bowls for about 3 to 4 minutes till it gets kind of thick, and there's your egg, okay? And again, you're not gonna notice any difference with the scones. This is one of my favorite recipes because again, I use the basic recipe and I flip it out accordingly. Now, my suggestion is if you have a stone, cook them on your stones. They work so much nicer. Those of you who are stoners like me, what I love about my stones is they work as a convection oven. So they're cooking thoroughly, thorough and all the way around. And so I tend to use my stones more. If you don't have stones, don't worry about it. There is a good deal next month if you are looking for stones. Plus mystery bags come out very soon. Karen, egg substitute. I will put it into the I will reply there for you, but again, it's 1 tablespoon of flax to 3 tablespoons of water. I will reply into the comments and I will let everyone else know about that. So again, basic scone recipe. Hey Barb! Basic scone recipe, sweet or savory. Again, really great, easy to freeze these suckers. If you are gonna freeze the sweet, and you want to put a drizzle on, my suggestion would be after you thaw them, warm them up a bit. It may be in your air fryer if you've got one. Then put the drizzle on. I tend to put the drizzle on if I know I'm going to freeze them. that I'm gonna put the drizzle in after. These little suckers freeze amazing. And again, best recipe for sweet and savory. So we're gonna start off with, and I've got a few tools here that I'm gonna show today. Some I have used in the past, others, I think I've used all of them. But again, any questions or anything like that. And again, I am going to add pea protein to it. And that way, I don't feel as guilty if I have an extra one because, oh, it's like a protein bar, right? Okay, so I'm doubling this recipe, just an FYI, okay? So today, if you see me and you're like, what in the actual hell, that's a lot of scones. Don't worry, I am doubling this recipe. I personally always double the recipe for my scones because when I make them, so many people love them and I tend to give them away because it makes me happy and that way I don't eat as many either. So these little suckers freeze great. So if you do tend to want to double the recipe like me, come along. Otherwise, when you follow along, you are just going to do 2 cups of flour where I am going to do 4 cups today. And I am just using my simple measuring cup. And as we go along, I got some hints and tips and tricks that I hope will be helpful to you as well. I normally just keep my Easy Read measuring cup in here, which is a 2-cupper, but I wanted to show you different variations of the measuring spoons. In my opinion, I can never have too many in my kitchen because I'm constantly using them. Now, as far as the sugar goes, what did I do with my tablespoon? I had it, here it is. As far as the sugar goes, it is calling for 6 tablespoons, which again, when I double it, I would put 12. So I am obviously not going to put 12 because again, I love the drizzle on the top. So I am going to put 8 tablespoons. So that's 5, 6, 7, which is equivalent to almost a half of a cup of sugar, which again, a scone would be, to me, first of all, a good scone is not dry. A good scone is cooked to perfection, kind of brown along the sides. If I would be making this savory, for example, I would cut the sugar in half anyhow. Again, one of my favorites is to do a cheese and jalapeno. Kiara's not a huge heat person, so I just scoop the seeds out, and the jalapeno just gives it a nice flavor. It doesn't give it that burn your face off. So this one is also good as a garlic and cheese. This one is also good if you've got broccoli. Chop up the broccoli and cheese. A broccoli and cheese scone with a bowl of soup is mind-blowing. And again, I would cut the sugar in half because it is a savory and I like to not have a sweet and add the extra sugar. So I've got 8 tablespoons of here. And again, just so you know, those of you who might have just jumped on now, I am doubling this recipe because I love scones and I love to give them away. Okay, so I need 2.5 teaspoons. So I need 5 teaspoons of baking soda powder. I do have baking powder. So I need 5 teaspoons of that. 2, 3, 4, and 5 teaspoons. And of salt, I need 1 teaspoon. That's sugar. I don't need extra sugar. Here's the salt. And so I need a teaspoon because it's asking for half a teaspoon. And there we go. Okay. We are then going to add the pea protein. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of pea protein. Okay. And again, you don't have to have this. I've got a customer, for example, who is allergic to pea protein. Obviously, she is going to admit that if she does not want to. You can add any protein whatsoever. What I love about, again, our Enrichables pea protein there is no flavor to it at all. I add that stuff all the time to my baking, especially because it just enhances the fact that I've got some extra protein in there, and I absolutely love it. So I've got the dry ingredients, I've just kind of mixed them together, and I'm just leaving them in my large glass bowl. So this is the because we have this in three sizes, the large, medium, and small. We also have the lids, the silicone lids that I've showed you in the past. They also fit onto these suckers. I use them all the time. In fact, I was trying to use a different bowl and I thought, I love these, and this is my favorite bowl to make a scone in. Okay, so in another bowl, which again, I should have taken out because I totally forgot. Okay, in another bowl, here is the medium and small bowls since I was just talking about them. I use them all of the time. Okay, so I am going to add a cup of heavy cream, because again, I'm doubling it, so it would be a half a cup. So it's 1 cup, and it's to 1 heaping cup of fruit. So this is 2 cups of raspberries. I am going to add the heavy cream to the berries. The berries mix much nicer when you mix the liquid to the fruit when you are stirring them into the dry. So when you mix the wet and the dry together, that is when you are going to want to make sure that the fruit doesn't break up completely. You can use frozen or fresh. You can use whatever berries you want. If you want to do a mixed berry, again, this is one of those staple recipes that you can use and you can try, and you can do all the sweet and savories. One of my favorites is, and it's starting to come, is a rhubarb strawberry scone. So good. But I'm a rhubarb strawberry any dessert. Plus I like scones, so obviously that works for me. So I am just going to pour the 1 cup of cream onto my mat. And I'm just going to pour it on to the berries, and then I'm going to let that sit, okay? So I'm gonna make a mess. I'm gonna put a little extra cream because I've seriously just made a mess. Okay, so I'm going to leave this and this, but I do like to coat my berries. My suggestion would be maybe put it in a bigger bowl next time, Aimee. That normally I just have it in a different bowl, but because I wanted to show you the glass bowls, they are 2 cup, it's an equal measurer, which is great until you overfill it and then you make a mess. So I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit because I don't want my mat, so this is our pastry mat, I don't want it wet, I want it dry. So once I put the dry with the wet, okay? So I'm gonna leave the berries for now, and there are 2 different ways that you can do your, hang on, let me just wash my hands. There are 2 different ways that you can do the butter. Again, I'm gonna show you way 1, and you can decide which way you like. So the recipe that I'm gonna attach suggests you take a frozen butter. So I personally keep butter in my freezer because when I do buy it, I buy anywhere between 6 to 8 pounds at a time. I am a baker more than a chef, so I never want to be without butter. And so when I buy it, I really buy it. So normally when I put it away, I try to make sure that all my corners are equal, so that way when I open it, it opens with ease. Okay, so we need a half of a cup of salted butter, okay? It's going to say unsalted butter. You can use either, okay? I don't change out my butter. I only bake with salted butter. I do not take less salt. The salt in the dry ingredients is there for a reason. It is for rising. It is working with the baking soda or the powder. I do not find the salt in the butter changes anything. If you want to bake and you bake with the unsalted and eat the salted, whatever. Life is too short, and to stress about butter, I don't have time for it. So I'm going to show you. So this is our coarse, our new double coarse grater. And I say new, it was in the spring last year. Might have been the fall last year. Regardless, it's got 2 different sides. So this is a very thick cheese grater. This is a fine grater, and you can see here that it's even more than this fine grater. So this works beautifully with butter for something like this. And because I need a half of a cup, that's a cup of butter, because again, I am doubling. And what I do is I just go along and I just grate my butter. Very similar to the way that I would with cheese. Now, you all know how I am normally with my thumbs and my knuckles when it comes to butter, and how I normally suggest using the safety, because I've had so many issues. For the butter, because it is frozen, it doesn't work so well with the safety. So that's why I always use the pound, making sure that it's there. So you can see how easy that is, very similar to cheese. And what's great about it is I don't have to use my pastry blender quite so hard. I also suggest not using your mixer. Now, you know how much I love my mixer. Those of you who have been with me during the pandemic, and the amount of bread and buns and, oh God, cinnamon buns that I have made. And normally I use my good old dough hook, and I do that. I don't suggest using any of that for the scones. This recipe, once I've got everything going and I just stir it around, we just flatten it, and you have scones in the oven in less than 20 minutes. So it's a real basic, again, simple recipe that I don't think you need to. Plus, I find it does break up the fruit. It kind of mushes the fruit. Now, if that's what you want, go crazy. Absolutely. I just like mine to be a little bit, to have a little more substance. Okay, so I need a cup of butter. So you can see here how easy that is. I just need to make sure that I have my cup. And then I want to show you another thing that you can do. So again, if you don't have frozen butter is not normally your thing. I'm just going to throw it in here because we're just going to add a little more. So I want to just scrape it into here because it is starting to get melty. As we have played along with it, it does get melty. But again, super easy to use, super easy to grate frozen butter. You don't need to worry about that extra step of making sure your butter is mixed up. We will still use our pastry blender. And I want to show you, again, oh my God, maybe I should move my phone. I will show you again, so that's frozen butter, how to use your pastry mat, or your pastry blender. So this is a regular, just butter out of the fridge. So if you do not use frozen butter, don't worry about it. My suggestion would be, though, use a very cold butter. So don't take it out until you're just about ready to use it. So the colder the better. I also suggest that for your heavy cream as well. Not so much your eggs. I like my eggs to be room temperature. So again, if you don't have frozen butter, what I suggest is using very cold butter, and I just pat it. And I'm just going to put a few in there because I was at almost a cup of butter. I do not want to over butter mine because they will, if you've over buttered or you don't break your butter up enough, they will start to talk to you in the oven. And therefore your fire alarm goes off. And if you've been here for a while with me, you know I set my fire alarm off enough anyhow. So I have my pastry blender. So this is the Pampered Chef pastry blender. And I am going to just first blend the butter, the flour, with the baking soda, it was baking powder, salt, and the protein powder, okay? So what we want to do, it's not so hard with the frozen butter, but what we want to do is we want to break up that butter with the flour so that it almost makes like little pellets, little flour pellets that are happening in here, okay? So the frozen butter, once we blend that, it is allowing the blending to be done so simply that you almost just need to stir it. And again, which is why I suggest you don't even need to use your bread hook, your dough hook on your mix master, because with the frozen butter, it's almost broken up anyhow. So you can see there with a good pastry blender that the butter is all mixed in. There's a bit of pieces here, little teeny pats you can see there that I'm just taking apart from the blender itself. I love my pastry blender. Careful though about this blender, the pastry blender it is very sharp. So I normally put mine into the dishwasher so that it gets a good clean. Okay, so you can see there, it's almost got like the little, you can see there the little pellets, like teeny tiny pellets, and that's the butter coated with the flour, okay? So I want to take an entire lemon. So it's I think it's 1 lemon, let me just say, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon zest. So because I'm doubling this, I normally use an entire lemon for this. And don't worry, we will still be using the lemon juice afterwards. There will be no harming and no wasting of lemons because I love lemon. Lemons are one of my favorite things. And the lemon skins, if you soak it in water afterwards, even what's left of the rind, if you soak that in water, it makes a really nice cleaner that you can put on your Norwex everyday cloths, and gives your house a nice smell and cleans at the same time. Again, just a little stuff about how we all play nicely in the sandbox. All right, so I've got a whole lemon zested there, and let's just make sure. All right, so I normally just scrape the little bit of lemon that's left on the back of the, all right. Okay, I'm gonna stir the lemons in. I'm going to add the egg. So I need 2 eggs. And I'm going to add into a small bowl. Let's use this one because it's already dirty. In the small bowl, I'm gonna whisk the 2 eggs. Okay. I'm just gonna whisk the 2 eggs. I'm gonna add the cream. And then I'm gonna stir in what's left of the raspberries and cream here. And again, we wanna coat them before we add them in. I don't want to waste any heavy cream here. Except I made a big mess on the counter, if you can see that. Okay, and then I'm just going to slowly, softly stir that in. Okay, so I'm stirring the eggs, the cream, and the berries together. Let me just make sure. And then I want to add some vanilla. I need half a teaspoon, which is a teaspoon, which in this case is a half a teaspoon because we are using, I still have the Madagascar vanilla, which I love that we only get it at Christmas, and I always buy extra to make sure I have it for the whole season. And I believe that is it. So you can see there, pretty basic. Let me just wash my counter here. Pretty basic, okay? Super simple, sweet or savory, and then you add whatever you want. So again, making mine savory today, I am going to add the wet into the dry, and then I'm just going to give that a good mix. And sometimes I actually even just put my hands in this, okay? And I just might today, because again, I don't want my raspberries to get completely mushed. Now, we know that because it's a raspberry, even some of the blueberries, and sometimes this is why it's nicer to use a frozen, that you will find that they do get mushy. That's all right. That's okay. As long as they still taste delicious, that's my favorite thing. So I'm just gonna make sure we're getting it off the sides If you find that your dough is a little bit sticky, you will want to add some flour. And I will explain that as I go along here. Let me just get my dough here. I am going to use my hands, and I'm just going to slowly stir because I don't want to mush my strawberries completely. If you find your dough is too dry, you might want to add a little bit more of your cream. So again, I've used heavy cream today. I think I am going to add some more. I'm going to add a little bit more moisture to mine. Again, if you are using substitute coconut milk for your, if you're lactose intolerant or vegan, the coconut milk works wonderful. If you are not vegan and you're just lactose intolerant, there is a lactose-free heavy cream from Lactania. I think it's Lactania. Works beautifully, okay? So again, I've just poured maybe another quarter cup, maybe 3 tablespoons. I am trying to softly stir mine in because I don't want to mush my strawberries completely. Sorry, these are raspberries. You can do strawberries. Those of you who might have just jumped in, I had already talked about strawberry rhubarb. This is again a recipe that I'm going to post over on VI Peeps. If you're not part of VI Peeps yet, go on over there. Love to share some recipes. I've just posted a little game that we're playing today. And again, all I'm trying to do is just pull off the dough so that as we stir it along, and I'm just going to show you what your dough should look like. So it's not too sticky and not too dry. So we're getting to that point where then I'm going to move it onto the pastry mat. So I don't want to see any flour or any crumble, but I don't want it too wet either where I cannot take it off my fingers this easily. So you can see that it is a bit sticky, obviously, but it's not too sticky that it's not coming off my fingers. And again, I've lowered the sugar, and once we get these into the oven, I'm going to show you the glaze and how easy that is to do, okay? So I've got my raspberries going along nice. You can see that some of the dough is turning pink. The berries have started to soften, and that's okay. They're not complete mush. Frozen works just as well, okay? So again, just going to show you there the dough. It's all mixed in. It's easier to do once it's on the mat to kind of mix it in, and then I'm not using my fingers completely. Now I'm finding it a little sticky now that the berries are probably starting to crumble. Plus it will stick to itself on the mat. So this is what I want to add. Not with these fingers, there we go. I want to add a little bit of flour to the bottom of my mat. Whew, I made that sticky. And then I'm just going to kind of roll it in itself, just like this, okay? Now again, you might be saying, God, that's a lot of dough. Again, I've doubled my recipe because normally when I make this, I like to share. I will flip it over again, and I like to make mine about 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick, okay? Now, there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can roll it out with our dough roller. Now, you can see here, my hands are sticky. They're not super sticky where I can't move around. If you do find that it's really sticky, put some flour on your hands. And as you are patting it down, you are just adding just a little bit of flour so it's not too sticky, and you're not adding too much flour to your dough, okay? So I've got my thickness that I like, and again, I can use my roller. Again, if I found it a little sticky at this point, what I could do is I could just sprinkle a little bit of flour, but really, really simple there. You can see there that it is a bit pink, because of the raspberries, but there are still hunks of raspberry in there as well, okay? So I'm just gonna give my hands just a quick rinse so that we can cut these and put them on the stone so you guys can see what I'm gonna do, okay? So hold 1 second. Super simple to wash. All right. Whew, just squirted myself. Okay, so what I love to do now is I love to take my pizza cutter and I just cut these suckers into about 12 or 16, depending on if some of them are very big. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually, even afterwards, I'll cut them again at the end. And love to use my stones because, like I said, I love that the stone cooks things almost like a convection oven. You can cut yours in any way, shape, or form that you want. I'm just going to quickly show you this before I toss these into the oven, and then we're going to do a fast glaze. I know I've kept you guys a little longer than I normally do on a Wednesday. Now, these will not, they won't expand too much, so if you're worried about how many to put per, I normally put 6 to 8, and you can see there these beauties. Okay, I'm gonna toss those into the oven right now. These are on a 400-degree oven, and I normally cook mine for 20 minutes. Now, everyone's oven is different. Obviously, you're just gonna do that appropriately accordingly. So, I have some icing already started here, but I wanna show you guys what I do is I take my citrus press, I then take my, oh, not that lemon, the naked lemon, and you just cut it in half, putting it into your citrus press. Now, for those of you who haven't seen our citrus press, don't forget, you're putting your fruit upside down, and you are going to squeeze your lemon all the way into your powdered sugar. It will completely turn your lemon inside out. It will keep the seeds inside it, inside the press that is, and squeeze that. There we go. Again, this is why I like to say rinds, and I put it into some water after, and I've got the liquid, stirring it along, and then I just add as much powdered sugar, which there is. I just add some powdered sugar, probably about a half a cup, depending again how many scones you have, depending if you use the whole lemon or not. And I let mine cool on my rack for about 20 minutes or so before I put my powdered sugar, my icing, my totally sour, I love a good lemon glaze, sour lemon glaze on there. And you can see there, that's about the consistency you want. It dries onto the scone. And there you have it, guys. This is the lemon raspberry scone. If you're not doing a lemon scone, if you're doing a sweet or a savory scone, depending on what you're doing, sprinkle cheese on the top of it. If you're doing like a garlic cheese one, I would sprinkle some rosemary, even onto a cheese scone. Sprinkle some rosemary. It's delicious. It's delicious as an addition to your chili or your any Italian dishes. And again, depending on what you want to do, the recipe that I will post over on VIP, I've doubled the recipe, and it's a very basic recipe, and you can add any fruit, sweet or savory. This is one of my favorite recipes of all time. When somebody's sad, when somebody's not feeling well, I love to bake. This is one of those recipes I love to have. So, thank you everyone for following along. Thank you everyone for being here. I absolutely love and appreciate all of you there are some great things happening very soon. Some summer stuff, which is right over there. Can't wait to share it all with you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you all soon.